But now, can we get to business now? We said we were going to have some fun. I got an email here
Business.
that, well, we're going to have fun business. We're going to have funny business. I got an email here, and it came to the drive-through email and somehow also filtered its way through to me from Adam in Edmonton. And he said, Dear Jim, I recently watched a clip of Renee Dupree talking about his experiences working with you, Jim, saying they were all positive and that you had great passion for the business. He also mentioned you had come up with his nickname, the French Phenom, and that you had inspired the team name La Resistance after writing a letter about him and signing it Viva la Resistance. Some more on that in a minute. But you what? I know, but there's something in everything now. Hold on. But he says, I had two questions for you. Number one, what are your overall memories, experiences, and thoughts on Renee Dupree? And number two, in the same interview, Renee also noted that South Park had come up with the same catchphrase in the movie. Will you confirm or deny here if the quote, Viva la Resistance and the subsequent naming of the team was in fact an inside reference to the South Park movie? And if so, what were your thoughts when WWE actually used it as their team name? Thanks. Well, thank you, Adam in Edmonton, for your missive here. And there's some truth in all of it's muddled, but would you like me to clarify? Would you like me to peel away the layers of muddle until we get down to the meat of the matter, Brian?
Yeah, now that is a phrase from World War II, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And that's where I got it.
That's South Park.
Well, no, but they used it in the South Park movie. And Google, you're better at it than I am. Google what year that was the South Park movie.
Okay.
I can't remember what year it was anyway. The point is, while you're doing that,
99.
Okay, so it predated the application that we used it for, but I bet you, and you'll see here in a minute, that they stole it in the same place that I did. And so the first thing is Renee Dupree was sent to us down in OVW, and I'm going to say this without even checking my records, 2003. It might have been 4, it might have been 2, I might be off a year, whatever the fuck, but it matters not for this. But the point is that Renee Dupree, as you and I have talked about, was the son of Emile Dupree, the promoter up there in northeastern Canada. What was his territory? Brian, help me.
The brothers.
I'm sorry, what?
The brothers. No, I always get them confused. It's either the Maritimes or it's the, not the prairies.
No, well, the Maritimes is up there, but there was Al Zink, there was Emile Dupree, there were promoted in Nova Scotia and New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island. There was few. I can't remember what the company was called, but
Anne of Green Gables.
Anne of Green Gables Wrestling, yes. So anyway, but Emile Dupree had been a wrestler. He came from a family that was famous in the wrestling industry up in that part of the world, right? In that part of Canada and points around there. And he was also, when they sent him to us, he was 19 years old. Now, at first I heard they're sending the 19-year-old son of promoter Emile Dupree. And I'm like, okay, that's not unusual. But when he got here and I saw him, first off, he was like 6'3", and you remember what You remember what Renee Dupree looked like when he first came here. He was 19 years old. He's like jacked up like Luger, right? For that age of a kid, he had an amazing physique. He'd already been bodybuilding for years.
Because he was so big, until I found out how young he was, I didn't think he was as young as he was. He looked a lot older because he was so big.
Yeah. And the Terry Gordy principle, maybe, except this day he was a bodybuilder instead of just being a giant fucking country boy. But anyway, so the first thing, because he's French Canadian, right? Renee Dupree. And the first way he got heat was, this was in a day, I still have a landline, but this is when you actually got a long distance phone bill. And I've told this story before, is that he calls me and leaves me a message with his phone number, and I call him back before he gets here to OVW, or right the week he's getting here, or whatever. And I talked to him for like an hour on he can do this or that. We do things this way, whatever the fuck it was. I talked to him for an hour. I get my phone bill. It's like $120 to talk to this goddamn, Prince Edward Island fucking Canada number. There's like 3 people call on that area code or whatever the fuck. So I told him, I said, you motherfucker, get a goddamn American phone, right? That was our first thing. He's like, oh shit, now Cornette's mad about it. Get an American fucking phone. So then I'm thinking, well, how do we, Renee Dupree on a poster in Ulitic, Indiana, or over here in Elizabethtown, Kentucky, they're going to think it's a girls' match, right? And nobody's ever heard of him. He's just starting in the business. So the French phenom, you know how I like alliteration. And we try to make something out of his name and his lineage in the wrestling industry, because he did have an advantage in that, his father had been a promoter. And at that age, at that time, his father must have had him late in life. But I wasn't even there at the time. But so we've had the French phenom, Renee Dupree, and he comes from the wrestling family, and look at the body on this kid. He's a superstar in the making. And for his promos, I've mentioned that the French accent just gets heat down south, especially, but in most of the United States, because it's just something about the way that it sounds, right? It gets under people's skin that speak English with no accent like us for some reason. And so he's gonna be a heel, right? Because this same Luger principle, in that, well, this obnoxious overachiever that looks better and is bigger and the great body and whatever, and snotty, entitled wrestling family guy. Brian, do you know where Viva la Resistance actually come? You have to know where that comes from.
From World War II.
But do you know where it comes from as applies to American television?
Where's that?
Hogan's Heroes. The very first French accent that I ever heard in my life was when I was fucking 4 or 5 years old, and I am listening to Corporal LeBeau, the famous character actor Robert Clary, who was one of the inmates, one of the prisoners in Stalag 13, on the television show Hogan's Heroes. And he was a member of the French resistance, the underground that was fighting the Nazis. And oftentimes he would come, Viva la Resistance! And I told Renee, I said, you're being an obnoxious French fuck. And instead of a letter about him, I've told you many times that with the OVW guys on television, I'd have the format, but I'd also have notes written out for the individual talent. I would give them their match or their finish or their interview or the gist of what their segment was. I would go over it with them verbally. And because there wasn't 12 of me and I couldn't sit in a corner with each one of 25 people for half an hour, I would have what I told them verbally written down, and I'd say, here. Usually it's put it in your own words. Other times I might mention to them, you got to say this way or it won't make sense with what we're doing later on, and here's why. And I just wrote one day, Viva la Resistance, and at the end of his promo, right? Be obnoxious French entitled fuck. And he did it. And then at one point he went up with, and Sylvain Grenier came in.
Yeah.
Grunion. But he came in and he was French too. And then poor Rob Conway, who was from the French section of fucking New Albany, Indiana, he got in the team and they went up there, and the next thing I know, they're on TV up there called La Resistance. So this whole thing comes from Hogan's Heroes. And I guarantee you that if you didn't make that connect, and they're still talking about it, and Renee Dupree didn't know what the fuck was going on, that the WWFE named them La Resistance with no idea of how the genesis of that came from Hogan's Heroes. I didn't think it was any goddamn. I thought it was a well-known secret.
Did you have Sylvain Grenier in OVW?
Yes.
What were you told about why he was hired?
That Pat had seen him at a show in, I would assume, somewhere in the Montreal or Quebec environs, and thought he had a lot of potential. And was that under the Jim Ross or the Johnny Ace administration under talent relations?
If it was Jim Ross, it may have been the tail end of Jim Ross.
It may have been the tail end. Now, you know, JR,
that was unintentional, Jim.
Problems with his colon. Once they got Sylvain Grenier dislodged from it. But I told you we're gonna have some fun today. But no, point is, that's why he tried hard, and he probably was impressive on an independent level, but I didn't see a lot of just, boy, gee whiz, can't miss stardom in him. And yes, and he was down there for a while, and then he was up there for a while, and then he went away for, I guess, since then. Did he ever continue wrestling now that we're down this rabbit hole? Sly?
I couldn't tell you one way or another. I actually don't know anything else about the post-WWE, post-Resistance career. And wasn't that the reason they brought Rob Conway into the group? Because he could work and Grenier wasn't necessarily up to snuff, or am I remembering?
What are you talking about? The Michael Hayes corollary?
Just wave a flag.
You're saying that Rob Conway became Buddy Roberts? Yeah, pretty much. Well, yes, pretty much. And because Conway could work his ass off, and so he became a French sympathizer and went over to their way of thinking over there in France. And also whereas Renee came in kind of like, okay, he had some element of, I'm the, promoter's father, wrestling family type of thing, but he also knew a little something about the business instead of starting from scratch. Whereas Sly came in very convinced of his own capabilities and came off that way to other people and had been nowhere and smoked nobody, as they used to say at Skinnerd concerts. So he wasn't one of the more popular fellows that we had down here was Sly.
Now that there's new ownership and that they're always making new content, hopefully we could really get a true OVW documentary, not just about like the big success stories, but about how Vince McMahon, WWE Creative, brought tons of guys from OVW that were working, that things were looking good up, and then ruined them, or took people that were not anywhere near ready and brought them up and ruined them too.
Well, I'm surprised they're not working on that fucking documentary already. That sounds like a can't miss. There's plenty of fucking footage and material to work from. But yeah, so that was that. I'm just trying to check off things in this this email. Did we answer? What are you saying?
Oh, did we answer everything from the email? That was my question.
That's what I'm trying to look and see. You keep fucking butting in like this is your show or something.
Was that how he got booked? Was he butting in?
I may need iron. I'm getting like Harley. I get iron.
You need iron?
IRON. I may need iron.
I thought you said you need iron like Oli.
I may need iron because like Harley, I'm getting feisty and growly because she was low on iron. Yes, but the French phenom La Resistance, thoughts and memories. Memories like the corners of my mind. But it didn't have anything to do with South Park. It was that was where they got it too. Cause old Oh, goddamn. Fubar Makafaka Lube and Slapco Fudd. Who'd started South Park? Matt
Trey and
and
Matt.
Trey and Matt.
Matt Stone, Trey Parker.
Yes, they've had so many pop culture references in their canon of material that you know that they stole some shit from Hogan's Heroes. Would there be any doubt there in your mind there, Brian Last?
No, I guess that is a possibility. Also, the idea that it was in the air. The reason Hogan's Heroes used it was the reason that a lot of other people would know it.
Well, yes, because that way it was out there in the pop culture. But I'm telling you what, folks, let that be a lesson to you. If you need to get the true story, send the questions here, because we're the only people that can give you the actual real scoop, the straight to the heart story. You can bet on our information, Brian. You can't wager on just everybody. They may be leading you down the primrose path, but you can lay money down on our word being correct, just like you can lay money down with our friends at DraftKings on a variety of things. See, that rhymed. I'm a poet and don't know it, but my feet show it because they're long fellas. Brian, have you downloaded the DraftKings Sportsbook app this week yet?
Oh, I was just about to do it, because if I had said to you before the show, what are the chances the fucking gardener and his fucking crew of morons would show up now to do the leaves after they said they were going to do it on Saturday? So, oh no, I did not, the app, whatever I'm supposed to say, yes.
Well, you know, it's a thing you need to do every week. Mark this down Monday mornings. First thing when you get up out of bed, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Now, you may say, well, once I download it once, do I need to do it again? Just keep downloading this son of a bitch. It might change. You never know. You need to stay in touch with these people. This is the only way, folks, that we've got now to imagine that we're all going to retire safely and securely as if we bet money on various things at DraftKings and win. So we got that to look forward to. And folks, you know, on the drive-through, Brian, I mentioned the big fights coming up, and I was conflicted because the way that it read, I thought that it was last week, but it's this week, which now the people may not hear before this week, so it may be last week. But if Friday night in Dallas, the baddest man on the planet, Mike Tyson, is fighting Jake Paul, the brother of that weirdo that currently is maybe a WWE superstar, Logan Paul. And on Saturday night, if John Jones is putting up the UFC title on the line against our friend Stipe Miocic from apparently somewhere other than Kansas, then it's the right weekend. But any weekend that you want to bet on something big, they're going to take your wager over at DraftKings. And new customers, if you bet $5, you're going to get $200 in instant, snap of your fingers type instant bonus bets. You put in $5, you're going to get $200 in bonus bet. Bet against all these son of a bitches. Somebody's got to lose. Somebody's going to get their ass kicked. But not you, if right now you take advantage of that opportunity by downloading the DraftKings Sportsbook app and using the code JCE. That's code JCE. For new customers, you get $200 when you bet $5. People on the street are not going to give you that kind of deal, unless it's to lure you off the street into an alleyway where they can beat you about the head and face, pummel your midsection, and steal your money. So do it the easy way on the internet and only on DraftKings, where the crown is yours. How's them gardeners, Brian?
Charge. We're DraftKings. The crown is yours. Tell them about it, Jim.
Well, no, I think that old Chauncey is going to tell him about it, isn't he?
Oh, that's right. Let's go to Chauncey right now.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/MMA.
Whew. Boy, and did you know also that he is the son of Zazu Pitts?
That's not true.
That's what it's on his resume.
Well, maybe not for him, but for you and everyone else, the crown is yours. One more time, what's that promo code, Jim?
JCE.